Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Starseed Mission Support. I am so excited to be talking to you about the auroras and how the auroras are connected to the earth energies, and there's so much that is happening in the grids. We're also going to be talking about how we can break collective spells through the grids because this is one of the most powerful ways we can work with the collective energies through the quantum realm and all the things that we know and understand about quantum healing. We can apply those things to a greater unified level, the planetary level, our higher range of self beyond our personality. And so I am so excited to bring you this conversation today, and I'm just going to dive right in. Just going to check my tech settings here for a second. I hope you guys are doing well today. The solar activity has been absolutely bananas in the last couple of weeks, and so I'm really hoping that you are feeling hydrated and well rested and all the good things. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about the Earth's grid as a engine of solar consciousness and how that grid has been hijacked and thus has not been able to perform its originally intended purpose. However, this is why many of us are tuning into the abilities of our DNA and our human consciousness and our human energy body to be conduits of higher energy and to interact and perform these healings on the Earth's energy body so that the Earth's grids can once again be the solar consciousness engine that is designed to be. This is going to work directly on the collective consciousness of humanity, which makes it one of the most powerful ways we can actually pray and perform energy work to support humanity in moving towards this highest timeline. We're also going to be talking about what spells are. And really, I feel like what I specialize in when it comes to the grid work, more so than working with physical locations, is understanding that there's an intersection between the physical and the consciousness realms. So even though there are physical locations and physical energies, ultimately, everything is impacting the consciousness realms, and everything that is in the physical reality, it is impacting both consciousness and collective energies, and the other way around as well. And so I really work in the psychic realm, the realm of collective consciousness, and seeing the different kinds of patterns and enslavement systems that exist in the collective consciousness and how they relate to time and space on the earth through timeline situations and occurrences, namely, wars and also collective gatherings, how those events really affect and connect to collective consciousness. And so seeing the different kinds of viruses that exist in human consciousness as a whole and understanding how those viruses were inserted into human consciousness intentionally, which makes them a spell. So I'm going to explain what all of those words mean to me. And this is really meant to be a intel report because I am inviting everyone into this massive grid work mission that we are initiating. We are headed to Ireland this summer for the Emerald Awakening Convergence. It is an in-person event in Ireland, and I'm going to share with you all of the important work that we have to do together. There is an opportunity to join this mission virtually online. And for everyone that's joining, both in person and online, the Guardians have been very adamant that a lot of training must go into this. I know that we've all gone to a lot of festivals and conferences and witnessed different kinds of energy harvests and distortions that can happen when groups of really powerful people come together. This is not going to be a festival or a party in any sense of that word, even though we will be celebrating when our job is done. This is a mission. We're going in with a very focused intention. And this intention is just really full of unity and love and prayers for the highest timeline and well being of all of humanity. But it really requires for every single person to step up and um, really commit to training, understanding that our light body and our consciousness requires this training, this up leveling in order for us to be conduits to this level of frequency. Many people feel like burnt out from just the solar activity, right? We feel exhausted. Well, it's kind of a similar process where if we trained our body and our consciousness to hold these frequencies on a regular basis, then we would feel less ascension symptoms and more ascension joy and excitement. And so this is part of a Intel report. We will be facilitating our second full day Guardian Gridwork training this Sunday during the Pleiades Gateway when the Earth, the Sun, and the Pleiades star system are in alignment. I'm going to talk about that later, but yeah, this is just to let you guys know that this is a serious mission that requires committed individuals who are willing to really commit to their Jedi practices for the next 3 months so that we can really move the needle. This is part of understanding that grid work. Sometimes people do it very nonchalantly, and this happens when we're just waking up and we don't really know what we're doing yet. And we go to these places and we think, oh, we're just going to put a crystal here and that's going to do. And, sometimes that is good, but really our body is the greatest crystal technology. Our body is what is a conduit for this highest consciousness to move into the Earth's grids. That's why we were seated here and why we were born. And so our process of activating our DNA and accessing true highest frequency organic intelligences in our own body, this is the greatest way that we can then come together and anchor these realities that literally impact the entirety of the planet. When you think about how big this planet is and how much mass and gravity it has, and how big these ley lines truly are, and how much energy is flowing through these ley lines, in order for us to create an impact on the earth, we are really talking about amassing and being able to accrete a high level of frequencies and energies. So there's a way for us to actually increase our energetic potency, and we do that through practice. In the first grid work training, which happened April 21st during the Grand Central Sun alignment, we brought in this incredible practice called the Aurora Pasana. I'm actually going to be posting that on this YouTube channel next week. I really think that this is such a life-changing practice, is eliciting the support of the Aurora families to help us re-encrypt our physical and our light bodies through all densities, helping us embody our highest Rishik self, and through that process, really increasing our body's ability to accrete higher consciousness and frequencies. The Guardians invited us to do this practice 1 to 2 hours a day so that we can basically be entirely different, higher versions, higher embodied versions of ourself. So understanding that these missions, they really require a lot of intention and focus from us. And so just wanting to share that, we have this capacity, we have this invitation from Mother Earth, from the cosmos, to seed such a powerful prayer. And it's really, I've never seen any guardian mission that has asked for and required so much preparation, and called forth so many individuals to come together with this intention. So it is such an incredible opportunity, such a great honor to be invited to participate in something like this. And so, yeah, without further ado, I'm going to hop into my grid report today, understanding that it is sort of an introduction to further training that we will be sharing on Sunday. I've received so much intel in the last couple days. I can't share everything on YouTube. I'm going to have to just filter myself. But the first thing I want to address is the auroras that happened last Friday. They've sparked quite the controversy in our community. It's been really interesting. Like for me, I never take anything personally. I just look around and everything is data, right? From the auroras themselves to how they make my body feel to how I feel on the earth to how different people respond and what they choose to share online and the energy that they choose to share it with. As someone that is activated in my subtle sense perception, I never just take things, face value. I always feel the frequencies behind people. And this is a process that is called energy or subtle energy literacy. Our ability to tune into energies behind energies and to really feel meaning beyond what is being communicated on the surface. This is an incredible discernment tool that we have, and so it's been very interesting to see the people that are, really excited by the aurora, which I am one of those people. I was so excited to see this phenomenon. Synchronously, last Friday, I got married, and it wasn't a big wedding. It was just like a legal procedure, but we had both of our parents present and our siblings, and we just had a little minister ordain our marriage because we needed the legal paperwork for our purpose. But we decided to get married in this little town called Aurora, which is just a little town next to my parents' place. And we just literally looked on the map because we love Aurora, of course. And it means so much to us working with the Aurora platforms and the Aurora families this year. And so we're like, okay, let's go to Aurora. Let's just find a street that we like. And so we found this little park on Soleil Boulevard, which means sun in French because Canada is like a French and English country. So we got married on Sun Boulevard in Aurora. It was so beautiful, just really celebrating, the union of our two lineages. We had our mothers come into the ceremony and perform this hand fasting ceremony with us. And, our mothers put a scarf on each other, signifying the union of not only my husband and I, but really the two families, the two kingdoms uniting for a shared purpose. And so it was such a beautiful prayer. And it just was so magnificent to then be blessed with the auroras that evening. It really felt like, fireworks. That was really, it didn't really totally just feel like a wedding for me and my husband, because divine union is always celebrating the love of our mother, father, God, which is the love, the true love that exists between man and woman. And so that was the massive synchronicity. Of course, um, things like that are just consistently happening in our life, but it was so humbling and beautiful to just witness that. We were not able to see from our house actually because it was cloudy, but just seeing like the next morning posts from all over the world, right? Like California to Ontario to Ireland and Dublin and even I think Australia. I mean, I can't remember, but there's just so many pictures from all over the world, these beautiful auroras, and people had immaculate experiences. Like so many people posting about being outside all night, just sitting under the stars, being in awe. And it was a beautiful sight to experience. It warmed my heart to see so many people just in awe of this magic that was in the sky. And of course, shortly after that, very interestingly enough, I started seeing all these people saying, oh, it's a hoax, it was fake, these HARP made it. And it was so interesting how quick certain people were just jumping onto that bandwagon. And, when I first saw the image, I had to look into it, right? Because obviously, I'm somebody that really likes to use my brain to think about things. I don't just read something on the internet and just immediately say that's the truth. And so what I do is I project my psychic sight. It's this ability called psionic redaction, where you basically project your consciousness into different dimensions and places and bodies. And this is how I do grid work, is how I do quantum healing on myself and others. It's a skill that I've developed over the past decade. At this point, I'm very acute at it. And something just wasn't adding up. I mean, Think about how much energy would be required to have technology that would impact the entirety of the earth. I mean, I can understand if it was like a storm or an earthquake or even a volcano, in one place. But to think that they would have some sort of technology that could impact like half a hemisphere of the planet, I just had a hard time fully believing that. And at the same time, I was looking around, and the collective consciousness of people that were excited about the auroras were typically people that were on an organic state of joy, people that were already connected to joy. And joy is very interesting because I'm talking about like an organic consciousness, right? That's full of innocence. And innocence is a place where we're in union with God. And so it wasn't that these people are taking mental information and assigning meaning. It was that their biology and their multidimensionality had a living relationship with the natural world. And it was the beings that had this living organic, I don't know if you guys can understand what I'm saying here. It's like this assessment, right, of consciousness that many people that lived from that place just knew that these auroras were real because they were creating a real experience of union, of miracle, of activations. And then there were people that were kind of usually pessimistic, like people that are quick to I mean, because at the end of the day, it's like, do we know that God is the highest power, or do we actually have more faith in technology, in the death cults, in, HARP and these groups that ultimately are trying to take credit for something that was beyond their power? It just didn't seem like it was realistic for these people to be creating auroras of all things, because the auroras are activators. They ignite our DNA and ignite our consciousness. And I'm going to explain this from a Earth grid perspective on why these people, I mean, if HARP actually created the auroras, then I'm going to have to say maybe they switched sides. I don't think that they did, just because understanding what the auroras are, it's a plasma magnetic wind that hits the earth. Okay. And normally it is the solar energy, solar wind, solar activity that creates this magnetic shift, this magnetic wind that, oh, and this is like the storm that my friend was talking about, I think maybe. But anyway, it hits the earth. And what happens is that this magnetic frequency actually interacts with the gravitational fields of the earth. And the earth's ley lines are created from subatomic quantum gravity from the core of the earth. So what is happening when the solar wind hits the earth grids is that it proliferates this pulse through the earth. Now, there's no reason why HARP would want that to happen, because ultimately what is being pushed through the earth's grids is not what they want, but just what is in cosmic alignment, what the sun is sending. Remember, the grids is a solar engine. What that means is that the sun is always radiating a cosmic consciousness, and the earth is a collective consciousness that's always responding to the codes and the intentions and the consciousness that's streaming through the original cosmic sunlight. Okay, and so what that means is that throughout the earth's ages, there are periods of evolution. You'll see that, it doesn't make any sense, but grass started growing all over the earth. And so there is a unified consciousness that is dictating the regulated evolution of the planet as a unified whole. And what is regulating that collective consciousness is the planetary ley lines, the meridian system of the earth. And what is informing the ley lines of the consciousness that is moving through the earth is actually the sun, the stargate of the solar consciousness, which is why there has been, this strong intention to block the sun, right? Through all of the chemical warfare, they're trying to block out the sun, okay? And they're trying to block the ley line systems with these wars, with churches, with all of these different things to block higher consciousness from proliferating through the planet. Because what the sun is signaling to the earth right now is planetary ascension, is heaven on earth. These are the instruction sets that are coming from the sun and putting into the earth's grids. And there are these new ley lines, right? These dragon ley lines, the biggest ley line system on earth, that are all of a sudden blinking online from the core of the earth. These are primordial ancient ley line systems. It's kind of a fail-safe system. So there's no way for this ley line system to be hijacked. It is now the divinely ordained time for the planet to wake up and move into the next phase of our collective evolution. So as these biggest ley lines are activating and the solar consciousness is radiating with these instruction sets for planetary awakening, okay, and when we have this solar activity, this inaugurates the aurora fields, and the solar wind creates this magnetic pulse through the Earth's grids. And this is impacting human DNA and really the DNA and consciousness of all things on the Earth. So, yes, if we weren't able to see the auroras, of course, we're still getting activations because the ley lines are connected all over the earth, and the auroras and the solar consciousness is moving through the grid, which is what makes it such an incredible system. It is meant to reach every single thing that's alive, right? Just like in our human body, we have our meridian system, every single cell in our bodies being nourished by chi and life force that is proliferating through our body through these energy lines, which is why acupuncture is so amazing for our health and our regulation in all the ways. It's the same thing with the planetary body. Okay. And so, should HARP have actually created the auroras somehow, what they're doing is just allowing more solar energy into the grids and actually just at the end of the day creating ascension and awakening on a planetary level, which is not something they would do. There's no reason why they would want to do that. And so really what they're trying to do is to take credit for it, because if they say, oh, we did this, then immediately people begin to lose connection with that joy, with that magic, with the this synchronized experience that so many people are having around the world of this magic and wonder and understanding that this next phase of our planetary prophecy was coming online. And so if you did a little bit of digging, HARP actually released an article on their own website saying that the experiment that they did on May 8th to 10th was literally about space junk. It wasn't even about the auroras. I know that HARP stands for, research about auroral activity or whatever, but they posted this article recently saying that they had nothing to do with the auroras, that they weren't even researching the aurora with that particular dates of their experiments. So I guess there's that. But I think that the most important takeaway that we can get from this is really understanding how mind viruses work. So a mind that is healthy is curious. You'll notice that the people that were saying, oh, it wasn't real, they usually, what I saw online was like they were making fun of people. They were saying, oh, other people are so gullible. They had this kind of segregating consciousness about it that almost like made them better somehow. Like they were smarter, they knew more. It was just this energy in these posts and these comments. Whereas the people that were like, no, this is God, they were just kind of stating their truth. And it was a different quality of consciousness. And so what we realize is that the healthy state of the human mind is one that is curious and open and joyful and kind, right? It's like when our mind is healthy, we don't get joy out of being right. We're just, living our lives and exploring the world and enjoying being alive, enjoying the beauty and the magic of this living realm. But when a mind becomes severed to the living consciousness, right? This is when a mind falls into AI. And usually, what happens is that these minds become judgmental and critical and bitter and needs to be right, becomes combative. It's very susceptible to these viruses of separation and war, right? And so we realize that a virus is basically an injection of artificial coding that is not native to the original system. So the original human consciousness is beautiful, curious, kind, open, inquisitive, right? That curiosity, it's very much human nature, and curiosity is based in openness and kindness and love. We are open to the things in the world, and we're not doing it to be smart, to be intelligent, to be powerful, to be any sort of egoic characteristics. Our mind is just in love. Our mind is still connected to our heart. Our mind is in love with the living world, and it just wants to understand, just wants to perceive, just wants to explore all of the delightful dimensions of living reality. This is the qualities of a healthy mind. But since, before we were born, we were constantly being bombarded with distortions and energies and experiences that are severing our mind from our heart. And so when our mind is severed from our heart and it feels like it's there to figure out this whole world on its own, there to just figure things out based on solely data, and usually data that it receives from the external reality. This is when a mind is so vulnerable to programming, because the heart, of course, is a source of our gnosis. And so when the mind is severed from the heart, severed from our original nature of curiosity and kindness, and the mind is left to its own devices here to figure the reality out from only data that it can get from the external reality, this is a very dangerous and vulnerable place for the mind. And so this is why society makes it tries so hard to make people think that there's no such thing as a soul, that the mind is the only thing there is, so that we are put into this vulnerable place and these viruses can be injected. Now, mind viruses happen in so many different ways. And by the time we're an adult, you know, we exhibit a lot of mental illness due to these viruses, this inability to disagree with kindness and respect, our need to be intellectually superior in some way, our need to be sure about the nature of reality instead of feeling safe. And this is really just because the mind believes that it's only safe when it exists in a reality it fully understands. Whereas when a mind is connected to the heart, it doesn't need to know, because the heart knows that we're always safe because we are sheltered by God. Okay, so when a mind is severed from that inner knowing, it is a very scary place for a mind. Um, this is how the viruses, they start to be easily injected into our consciousness. Now, a program is essentially a system of viruses. So a program, let's see, for example, the poverty program. In the poverty program, we believe there these viruses that our mind has incepted are, money is hard to make, money is evil, people with money are horrible, money means you're a bad person, and all of those viruses are embedded in the program of poverty and slavery, right? And so the program creates a set of behaviors, like needing to prove our self-worth, needing to overwork, judging people based on their wealth, right? These are behaviors that are created by the program. Now, a spell, these words are all connected. So a spell is essentially when there's an intention behind the casting of these programs and viruses. So essentially, when a group of people are very intentionally seeding viruses and programs into a society to mind control people, this is when a spell is being cast. So the viruses are being placed with the intention of deceiving and covering the eyes of humanity. Whereas if a virus is just naturally, I don't know, inserted, I don't know who would be doing that. But if it was like an accident, right? Like if we just went through life and had a trauma and it was an accident that we picked up a distortion, that would be one thing. But these distortions are very meticulously and intentionally placed into human society by groups of people and interdimensional beings. And so that is what makes it a spell, is because it is intentional. Does that make sense? Okay, so the reason why this is important for me to explain is because we are going to go into talking about collective spell breaking. This is actually quite a deep subject that I can't go into a lot here on YouTube, for my personal protection, because at this point we're talking about very high level cosmic and inverted magic that goes back to the beginning of the slavery system on Earth, with the fall of ancient Egypt and the other negative beings that came to the earth. But I will be sharing these downloads with you entirely in the Guardian Grid Work trainings, because these are the spells that we are here to break as part of our Ireland event. And so I am going to tell you as much as I can here on this call. Okay, so all of that being said, let's go back for a second to grid work. So the way that I'm guided on these missions, I have been online since 2013. So essentially at that point in 2013, I had this massive awakening where I just realized the world there's something wrong with it. Like there was just something that wasn't right with the way that everyone was living this reality. Is like everybody was kind of depressed and anxious, and nobody wanted to really talk about it, and nobody really knew why the world was the way it was. But to me, it just seemed like there was so much more to life. And so when, as a super empath sitting on the bus, I could just feel how suppressed and depressed and anxious, unfulfilled, all these people on the bus felt. And I just felt so deeply that I needed to discover for myself what life was. And I also really, really wanted to help humanity. I felt like we could be having such a better time here on Earth. It is such a beautiful planet, and really was just that simple. I was like, we could be having way more fun being humans on this planet. At that point, I didn't realize that, there is an original blueprint and that we are angelic star seeds here to perform that timeline shift and liberation of human consciousness. I didn't know any of that. It was very simple in my mind. We could be having way more fun being humans on Earth. And so at that point, these beings in the earth literally started communicating with me, and they told me that I can work with the earth's energy body and the collective consciousness on earth. And this voice started guiding me to different locations. And it's now been, I guess, over a decade that I've been training and doing this work. It happens through tracking synchronicity. So I would get guidance, I would follow that guidance. It would almost lead me on this mystery adventure tour. And all of a sudden, one theme will just continually repeat itself. And so one piece of guidance that dropped in early last year was that I needed to go to Moorea Island. Moorea was this little island in the center of the Pacific Ocean, and it's part of the French Polynesia Islands. And so I knew that I needed to go there in October. I was given the exact dates that we were supposed to be there. And of course, as the time grew closer to going there, I find out that we're actually there during the Ring of Fire eclipse. So I didn't even know that, because I don't plan these things. I just do what I'm guided. Like the earth is like, this place, this date, this time. I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I schedule it and I get there. I'm like, oh my God, this is, full on Ring of Fire eclipse. And then a couple days before I was going there, I found out that Hamas had attacked Israel, and that basically commenced this whole conflict over there. And then I found out that Moorea was literally the axis pull opposite end of the whole planet. And so, of course, this was so shocking to me because, again, I never plan these things. The earth tells me when, where, and who. I just execute. And then when I get there, I'm just usually shocked at what happens. And this is not a one time situation. At this point, this has happened to me so many times. We did this planetary divine mother activation to literally recoronate the original Holy Mother Goddess Queen. And the day before that started, the Queen died. And so, things like that is constantly happening. I'm just like in shock and awe half the time because I'm like, am I really talking to the earth? Like, I feel like it's crazy, but then things like that happen. And so at this point, I don't question it anymore. I just listen. Um, I just listen and do what I'm told. And so we go to Moorea and we're there to pray. I found out that over that gateway, there was also an astrological transit that signified the axis of war and peace. And so we understand that what is happening in Israel right now is this massive attempt at hijacking the highest planetary timeline. Like they're trying to use that war and the genocide and the bloodshed. If you're sensitive to quantum energy, you know that blood is one of the most powerful elements on Earth, which is why there's so much um, magic that exists in the hospital grids, in the wars, in abortion and all of those things. Like there's a way to perceive everything in a third dimensional way where you think, oh, it's just this reality. But when you tune in with your quantum sight, you'll start to see connections and intention, very insidious and weird energies that are seeded through these institutions that we experience as normal in the world, right? Almost every institution is a planetary control system of a different nature, whether consciousness or biological or quantum. Okay, and so you understand that blood is one of the most powerful elements, and I have a great free workshop on blood. You can search in my YouTube library. I think it's called like Ancestral Curses and Bloodlines, something like that. In that video, I go in depth into war and blood, the power of blood, blood magic, bloodlines. So if you're curious about the power of blood, you can definitely go in and watch that video to understand more about how magic, just because, humans don't know, just because we're not taught in school doesn't mean these realities aren't very real. Okay, and so yes, they are attempting to use, blood and life and death to steer the planetary timeline into war, into disarray, so that it can continue to have control over the planet. But at this point, it's really not not going to happen. So what happens when they exert so much effort to create a timeline is that it usually just backfires on them, right? Because God has spoken, the angels are here, the Emerald Covenant is well underway, the promise and the ley lines are all activating. And so the best thing that they can do is just try so hard with these, what they call black swan events, right? These events that are trying to hijack and steer the timeline in a certain direction. But when we ended up in Moorea, I knew that this was timeline related because of the location that we're in the opposite axis during the astrological axis of war and peace. And so we did this powerful prayer ceremony with more than 500 people over the course of that weekend, through the Ring of Fire eclipse. And, we just really used our bodies as a channel for God's intelligence to really proliferate through the Earth's grids and to choose on behalf of humanity the timelines of heaven on earth. So during that weekend, we placed this beautiful dragon egg, where we witnessed this beautiful dragon egg appear in the core of the earth. The core of the earth, there are so many different names and technologies that are there, but essentially it's an access point to the 0 point or to source. There are so many manifestations of what can be imagined or opened up in that space. It's now been scientifically understood that the ley lines, at least the biggest lines, these dragon lines, come from the core of the earth. They're birthed from the core of the earth, which a lot of psychics and grid workers like myself, we've already known this for so long, and just to have it confirmed by scientists like Rory Duff, it has just been so incredible, to get that validation. But essentially, when we go into the core of the earth with our pure intentions, and usually it is our DNA that allows for us to interact with the grids, a lot of the angelic star seeds, the original Grail dragon lines, the original Christed Grail lineages that are the originally and ordained guardians of this planet, the intended guardians of this planet, the intended guardians of the Holy Grail, we have the DNA to be able to interact with the Earth stargates, ley lines, and particularly the 13th dragon line in the core of the Earth. Now, this is the reason why our lineages have been hunted forever, right? Going all the way back to the beginning of the enslavement system, it is our DNA and our blood that was taken and stolen and siphoned and replicated to give these beings access. They stole the keys, which is literally our DNA. And we're basically taking back the keys and turning off that old ley line system so they will no longer be able to use our genetics and our keys to run the ship. Okay, and this is also why we're the ones that are being called to work with this new ley line system right now, because you're the ones that in the beginning were given this great honor. Our lineages, our ancestors, our earth and our ancestors seeded these lineages to be the rightful guardians of the earth and these living stargates. Okay, and so I'm getting chills. Understanding your role and why, if you're getting chills, if you're getting hot, if you're feeling fear, any of these things, you just know that, it is really your blood. Like the blood has memory. And so the blood has lived through the genocides and the persecution and, the forced breeding and all of that. But the blood also remembers, the beginning when there was absolute eternal peace and so much excitement at the dawn of this co-creation when we were weaving the genetics of this emerald planet, understanding its ultimate destiny, right? This was such an immaculate honor and joy for us to be in that time. And so we have direct access to the Earth's energy body and the Earth's DNA through our soul, through our lineages, through the star-seeded multidimensional DNA and these keys that we're holding in our soul. So when we approach the earth, when we come into these major grid locations, right? It's almost like we're a key that just fits right in to the grids. We can click in and seed these codes that we're holding in our soul, in our DNA. But in order for us to do that in a conscious manner, we have to train. We have to commit to our practices so we know exactly what we're doing. We know what frequencies and where we're sourcing those frequencies, right? We're not going into the front of the battlefield blind. We are going in as professionals, as experts, as embodied masters. And this is the only way when these missions, they can succeed because, it's very possible for missions to be derailed. I'm sure many of you have this horribly sad memory inside of your body in past timelines when these missions have failed and we've watched our comrades fall and people die and our village being burnt. Like we feel and remember what it's like in our body and our soul for certain missions to fail. And so if we don't prepare, we're really setting ourselves up for failure, understanding that it's not a joke, it's a real life situation. We have this great honor of being called to facilitate a very, very important job of awakening certain sets and sequences in the Earth's energy body. But the only way that we're actually going to be able to do that is if we as a collective group can hold enough cosmic energy in our group field. And if you practiced every single day, meditated an hour or two with this Aurora Pasana, which is such an accelerator, right, for our genetic activation and light body activation, we will each be different people by the time we get there. And this is what the guardians are saying is needed from us for this to happen. I think that this is a very exciting proposal, honestly, because I think we're bored of things being so artificial, right? Like, yeah, for a while, going to conferences and going to festivals, they were fun. We were socializing, it was great to have friends, but something that our soul really needs to feel fulfilled was missing, and that is a shared purpose. So understanding that we're going there, not to socialize, not to, just have fun, and we will have all those things, right? We will connect to each other deeply and have so much fun, but really understanding that we're training literally to execute a mission of cosmic proportions. This is going to give our body so much vector, so much acceleration. We're doing what we're here to do, right? We're doing what our soul knows that we're here to do. And so we're going to paddle for the wave. We have to train. And I think that ultimately this is going to lead to a whole new era for each of us as individuals, right? This is how this event will both be a portal for the planet, but also our individual self. Like, imagine you really put in the effort for the next 3 months and train like a Jedi, and we complete this mission. Like, the rest of our life is going to be put onto a higher trajectory versus if we had not done that. Okay, so let's talk about timelines and understanding that time is quantum. So many of you have done quantum healing on yourself, right? Or inner child work, where you go into a memory where you were traumatized and almost feels like you were there back in time, and you can hold yourself almost like sometimes I hear people say that when they were little, they felt like a guardian angel. And then when they grew up, they realized that guardian angel was themselves because they were doing this healing work and they sent themselves back in time to hold and love and support that little one. And so we understand that quantum healing through time and space is a real thing. Quantum hypnosis happens, and so much healing can happen in that space. So we're just opening up that same principle and applying it to the Earth's body, understanding that the Earth has an inner child. Okay. And we can actually connect to that inner child. So sometimes in inner child healing, we'll connect to a part of us that never was harmed. So before a trauma ever occurred, we connect to the original light of our innocence, of our joy, of our aliveness when we were completely still intact. And so this is essentially what started dropping in around the Pangea Grid. So when we got back from Moorea, I began to get so many Pangea synchronicities. Like, all of a sudden, it was everywhere. And even when I was on the airplane to Bali last month, there was this documentary on the airplane console. It was this show called Ancient Earth, and there was only one episode. And so it was called like Scorched Earth or something, can't remember. But anyway, I looked it up, and this show has literally 50 seasons, okay? 50 seasons. There were like 40 episodes a season, and there was only one episode on that console, and it was an episode on Pangea. Like, what are the actual friggin' chances? Okay, especially because I was already getting so much Pangea downloads and how important this grid was to our grid work mission. It was almost like I just had chills. Like, I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I watched this nature documentary about how 300 million years ago there was a period of time, the Permian Epoch, when all of the continents of the earth were one, and the supercontinent was called Pangea. Now, when I looked at the map, I just posted a reel on this on my Instagram account. So if you want to go, watch me talk about Pangea with the image of Pangea overlaid with a fetus, you can go find my account at earthstar.academy, where I'm posting kind of snippets of grid work intel all the time. But essentially, when you look at it, it looks like a baby, and particularly a baby dragon. Okay, it has like this tail, it's like this little fetus inside of an egg, and it was so precious. And so I started to deeply connect with this landmass, and the earth started sharing with me that this is her inner fetus, her inner child, inner baby, when she was in her fetal state and her original consciousness. And it's such a precious energy to commune with, right? To feel our beautiful Mother Earth, which I feel her as this young adult, right? She's just emerging from her teenagehood into adulthood. Like she's this goddess that is developing. She's got this soul, just like we each have a soul, and she's developing, maturing into the fullness of who she is. And at that point, she was just a tiny little fetus, and I could feel all of the angelic coding that we were putting in her, this destiny that she was going to have to be literally a house of God, a temple for these avatar beings to walk the earth, to create this ascended civilization. Okay, like this pristine jewel in the universe that had this cosmic avatar ascended civilization living on her, guardian of all of these Stargate systems that connect out to the rest of the universe. She is such a precious being with such a grand destiny that we have seated in this being. And she was just a little baby. And connecting with her innocence was so precious. So that was a ceremony that we did in the day one grid work training from last month. If you join this grid work mission, you will get access to those recordings immediately. But so many people had just a profound experience. Like if you ever felt like you were here since the beginning, or you helped conceive or weave your DNA or support in the co-creation of the destiny of the earth, this was such a precious ceremony that we shared in together. But okay, so what was also insane then was that I had this folder on my Google Maps. I have so many folders on Google Maps. You know how you can save locations? I have all these different grids that I've been mapping. And one of them, it was very vague because I had no idea what I was mapping. I was just getting all these locations. I'd be trying to go to sleep and they'd be like, Somalia. And I'd be like, what? I don't know anything about that country. And then I have to wake up and start freaking researching. This happens to me. I'm just trying to sleep. And then, they're like, North Korea. I'm like, what? So anyway, I have this one grid that I've been mapping called the trauma grid, and I had no idea what I was mapping. And then one day I was like, you know what, I just found this Pangea map with actually the modern countries where they believed the different continents would be on this Pangea map, and I started gridding it. And again, you can see all of this if you go on my Instagram page at earthstar.academy. I posted a carousel yesterday with diagrams, and you can see, with little arrows, I put the map and I mapped all these locations on that grid intel, so you can see it if you want. But essentially, I started putting all these locations that I had in this trauma grid file onto the Pangea map, and I discovered that North Korea was literally in the crown of Pangea, that Somalia was literally in the womb chakra of Pangea, and that Israel was the belly button of Pangea. Now, this is all really important because you think about how our body is quantum and how throughout time and space, right, our body is one thing. So we can incur changes and we can connect to the previous versions of ourselves through the quantum realm. And that is how quantum hypnosis and quantum healing works. Okay. And so when we look into these countries like North Korea, where I was born 3 hours away from North Korea, so I like those grids are very strong in my awareness because I lived there until I was 9 years old. It is one of the most mind controlled places in the world. Like, it's actually outrageous how much mind control exists in that place. Like, a lot of people will have a hard time understanding the depth of how those people were terrorized in the last 100 years to completely eradicate human spirituality. Okay. And so people literally believe that their president is God. They rewrote the Bible with their president in the Bible. And they've murdered basically all the spiritual people. Like, when the Communist Party first came into power, they rounded up the scholars, the teachers, the open thinkers, the Buddhists, the spiritualists, and they executed them, right? This is like 100 years ago. And so at this point, people in those grids are terrified. And so there's been so much effort, unlike anywhere else in the world, to shut off cosmic connection. And that's just the truth. And then we look at a place like Somalia, which is literally in the womb, the sexual organs of Pangea. And this is a place where 98% of women had type 3 genital mutilation as a child. And I'm sorry, this is so intense. I know many of you probably didn't know that or know that things like that even happen, but hundreds of millions of women, primarily, in Africa and the Middle East and some places of Asia, have this horrible thing. It's basically, they call it female circumcision, but it's really not anything like that. Type 3 FGM is the worst kind. And I'm not going to describe it just because it is just horrendous, but it's the worst kind of thing. And little girls around between the ages of 2 and 6, they get sent to their local circumciser, and there's no, they don't have anesthetics. They just get held down by their family members, and it's horrific. And it's not just one or two people. It's not an underground thing. I'm saying 98% of women in Somalia has had that done to them. Type 3, which is the worst type. Okay, and this is in the sexual centers of Pangea. So is that a coincidence? When we see that North Korea and Somalia is like in the locations that they are, with the kind of abuses, the kind of collective trauma that is being exerted onto those people. So to me, I'm like, that's not a coincidence, right? I mean, just like, what kind of coincidence is that? And then on top of that, I'm sure, there's so many others, but these are the three primary ones that have come about. Because then the next one is Israel. And Israel is, Israel, Palestine, that whole area is in the navel, or the umbilical cord, which is the umbilicus, right? That is where this little baby, the earth, is actually connected to Mother, Father, God through that cord of nourishment. And we see what's happening there right now, like genocide, literally, of children. This inversion of the connection to the divine, because Jerusalem was once, represented a place where, humanity is connected to Christ, connected to Mother, Father, God, connected to the original mysteries of divine union, which Yeshua and Mary Magdalene represented and taught together. So you think about how that is this golden cord that connects us to God. What is happening there is this complete inversion and genocide, right? This holy war. And so, taking all those three things in consideration, I do not think that this is just a coincidence that my brain is just looking for all of these, all of these, what's the word here? Coincidences, right? Patterns. Like, it's just it's hard for me to rationalize that it's just a coincidence. And so for me, it's not. Okay. But then what is just horrible is feeling into the inner child of the earth, right? That is intentionally being harmed through these grid violations. And this is so important for us to be aware of, because what we're doing is we're going to be able to reset the earth's fetal blueprint if we're able to correct and override and also bring in higher architecture around these key grid locations. And we're going to be able to do this from Ireland because if you look at the anatomical shape of Ireland, it also looks like a little baby dragon. And there's a lot of different people that have studied the ley lines of Ireland and said that it reflects the Taoist maps of the human meridian system, um, which it's kind of like this microcosmic fractal of the planetary meridian system. Okay, and another reason is Ireland is literally located in the throat chakra of Pangea. And again, you can see a map of this on my Instagram at earthstar.academy. I'm posting more snippets of intel on there. I'm very active on both YouTube and Instagram. So if you want more like in the moment intel drops, I'm posting more of that on my Instagram at earthstar.academy. But in the most recent intel drop carousel, you'll be able to see this diagram and specifically this map of Pangea with the countries labeled. Ireland is literally in the throat thymus. And this is really important because essentially it's a place where we can send out this creational signal, right? The voice, the throat is a creational stargate. The thymus is connected to our high heart. And so these are energies that allow for us to broadcast an original blueprint signal frequency like a cymatic sound wave, which is going to be able to reset. And part of this is what they're sharing is like this rebirth of the planetary tree of life. The tree of life is how physical beings are unified and connected to the cosmic. So our meridians, we don't exist as this closed singular being. Our energy body is an extension of the cosmic unified spirit energy realms, right? So understanding that our meridian is a direct connection, is a branch that grows out of the universal tree of life, we are basically needing to reconnect the earth and heal and restructure and rebirth the earth back into complete union with the universal grid through the Pangea grid and also through various locations like, we're going to be going to the Hill of Tara together, and you'll see that the Hill of Tara is literally these two mounds that's in the shape of an 8. We're going to be there on 888, August 8th, 2024. And, this is really representing that first split of the cell, right? That first split of the fertilized cell from the fertilized egg into its first cell division. That is when your first meridian is formed. When your first meridian is formed, that is when your personal tree of life grows its branch and extends out from the cosmos, from the unmanifest into the physical. So there was a moment when the earth was also receiving its first meridians, and we're essentially reaching back to that moment of conception, the moment of first individualization, and we are correcting any and all attempts at severing the earth from the cosmic, from Mother, Father, God, blocking these cosmic consciousness connections. Okay. Um, okay. Whew, that was a lot. I'm just sorry, spitfiring. This is all a lot. And remember, there are things that I can't share with you here, not because I don't want to, but it's just not fully safe for me to share those things. We're talking about like the highest order of creation slash inverted magic. And it's just not appropriate. There are certain things that are highly censored. I don't think that I want anyone to know that I know these things, even though they probably already know. But anyway, yes, I'm just not guided to share certain things publicly, but we have our second full day Guardian Gridwork training on Sunday, May 19th, this Sunday at the beginning of the Pleiades Gateway. So I'm going to be sharing with you all of these downloads that I've been getting around the beginning of the human enslavement programs and the clearing of very prominent and big collective consciousness spells. Understanding those spells is literally going to help us clear that spell from the collective consciousness of humanity, which is going to lead to freedom, sovereignty, people getting their power back. What happens when 6 billion people all remember that they're children of God? What could happen if all 6 billion humans remember the source of their power? That is to say, our Mother Earth and Mother, Father God, right? What could happen? And of course, those are the things that we can push out into the grids. And there's nothing that can stop that, right? Nothing can stop sunlight from hitting the earth, even though they're trying. Nothing can stop the auroras, activating and creating completely new magnetic impulses and information through the Earth's grids, even though they're claiming that they're behind that, right? When you understand how the grid work happens, there's an internal gnosis, and these things are just what is logical to me. And so yeah, I have just so much more to share on how to work in these realms, and particularly working with the planetary Akash, the planetary pain body through the quantum realm. This is what we're going to be learning this Sunday. You can find the link in the description below. That it is open to all ESA students, as well as people that have either a virtual or in-person ticket to the Emerald Awakening. Once you get your ticket, you will have instant access to the previous gridwork training day, and as well as information to join this call upcoming on Sunday. If you're just joining now, please catch up on the first training. You don't have to do it today or tomorrow, but over the next week or 2 weeks, please catch up on the first gridwork training day, because it's just really important. I mean, everything that was transmitted was a genetic activation, and there was a practice that was shared, and also grid intel. It's really important to get caught up so that your body has all of the defenses and activations that it needs to facilitate this group work. Our third training is on June 2nd. Interestingly enough, there is a massive planetary lineup, just like the harmonic convergence back in 1987. So I'll be releasing a galactic astrology report on that next week. But, you probably want to get caught up before the next training. So that is to say, please join it. Nahama says, do we need to register, or are we in the workshop tomorrow if we bought a ticket to the Ireland event? Yes, if you have a ticket, then you already have access to that. The event is part of the 4 days of grid training, is a part of the event. So hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about, this Ireland Israel connection. There's so much more than even just this ley line, because, human mapping of ley line can have mistakes, right? Because there's so much that's in flux. Like, our human mind wants things to be in straight lines and wants things to connect. But in reality, things are quantum and lines are moving, right? It's a breathing, living, biological creature. And so, there is on paper a line. I mean, it must be a famous line, because there's even a Wikipedia article about it. It runs from the southern tip of Ireland to Jerusalem. It is called the St. Michael's line. You think about St. Michael. St. Michael is supposed to be, of course, there's all these fake Michaels, right? These imposter clones, but we're talking about the original St. Michael is the same consciousness as Yeshua, as all great avatars of Holy Father. So avatars of Holy Father are incarnated pockets of Holy Father's consciousness, understanding that Holy Father couldn't ever fully incarnate into any one human being. So this is why they're called the sons of God, right? So essentially, there are these great avatars, saints, beings that are born to be a capsule of original Christed Mother, Father, God intelligence, which really is the path of the star seeds, the 144,000, which is why so many people wake up, they're like, oh my God, I think I'm Jesus, or I think I'm the Holy Mother. And it's like, in a sense, we are, but we are just a drop of that original consciousness, and really requires so much humility and innocence and true devotion to doing the work, to clearing our bodies, to be true emanations of original intelligence and true love. But okay, let's go back to the St. Michael's line. This is a line that is meant to uphold the original true Holy Father intelligence on earth. Okay, now there is also a Mary line that is interwoven with the divine masculine line. So really this line is about hieroskamos. Hieroskamos is about divine union of Mother Father God, which is an architecture of reality. Mother Father God is a unified creational principle. When they are in union, what is birthed from their collective architecture is the Christ, is Christed reality. So we talk a lot about this in our first grid work training day. Essentially, in order for Christ consciousness to fully bloom in the collective reality, right, there needs to be this perfect balance of divine feminine, divine masculine energy. The divine masculine energy is the true king, true holy father, original divine masculine consciousness, and it is full of divine power, divine right order, sacred laws, divine protection, is the upholding of a kingdom and ensuring that the kingdom is full of prosperity and peace and harmony for all of life. Right? It's this Christed heart field that ensures all of life is being honored and revered and nourished by this protective, beautiful solar radiance of our Holy Father's love. Now, that is the true Father frequency, but we know that there's been so much distortion, false Father architecture, the false king of tyranny. That is this fallen fake version, for the lack of a better word, a fake version of Holy Father, just this imposter who's trying to be God, right? A lot of these religions are actually posturing this false father. We all understand that. The false father that gets jealous, that hates women, that wants people to worship him and, make him the most important thing that we all have to give our power away to, or he's going to send us to an eternity in hell. This hateful, jealous, wrathful, false God. You think about um, the consciousness of the beings that are behind the wars in Israel, right? Is that energy, that domineering, taking what's mine forcefully with violence. I am the rightful guardian of this land, and anyone that's in the way, I'm just going to murder you with no mercy. Like, is that really how a truly Christed Holy Father king would operate? Of course not. Is an inversion. Okay, so understanding that this is literally the pinnacle of the inverted father false king grid. It's very interesting that it's connected right up into Ireland, because a lot of the ancient Irish tales have to do with Ireland being a goddess. Ireland represents the original sovereignty goddess, um, divine mother, right? A lot of the Celtic, fairy, Tuatha Danann lineages have to do with the original incarnations and knowledge of the Holy Mother. So I'm trying to just triangulate on what I'm trying to articulate here. Okay. So essentially, the false king of tyranny has his primary, like the false male god, his primary gig this whole time has been about enslavement of the divine mother principle, because that's where he is stealing all of his creational power, right? He doesn't have the power to source from God. He's chosen that he is God, and the only way that he can acquire power is by taking it through rape, through forced breeding, through, controlling and enslaving the feminine principle. And so you see a lot of this in the Middle East, right? Including, FGM and not giving women freedom and rights. They're more objects to be owned. This is a consciousness that comes from a very ancient spell, a very ancient curse. Um, I'm not even going to say the name of it because it's just very fresh. It's just, I got this huge, massive download today, and I was like, oh my God, this goes into like the first biblical stories that were taken from the Sumerian tablets. I will be talking and sharing about this on Sunday in a closed container that's not publicized. I'm just not ready to, speak those things on the internet. I'm sure you understand. But yeah, so okay, understanding that all of these grid violations on the earth, right, has to do with the raping and the pillaging and the control over the earth's goddess fertility, creational abilities, powers. And I'm gonna tell the truth, it's just that I don't think it's worth losing, my channel over. Like, I'm just like smart about things like that. I'm just not gonna be very effective if I'm sharing certain things and getting into trouble. And I would just rather, tell the truth to the people who are ready to hear it, who are called to this information, because it's not meant for all years either. I'm not saying any of this to get clout or to, make people think I'm so smart or whatever. I'm just holding these revelations for this work that we have to do. So, anyway, this is one of the epic connections between Ireland and Israel. And I was talking to my Irish friend today, and she was saying that there's actually deep affinity between the Irish people and the Palestinian people because they've gone through very similar things. The UK was really trying to invade Ireland and created all of these famines in Ireland and genocide and lineage genocide and things like that. And so that's basically what is happening in the Palestine right now. And so a lot of Irish people have this deep affinity towards Palestinians. And I think part of this is even in the grid connection, that Michael line. But it also has to do with Ireland's role in the Emerald Prophecy. So Ireland is basically chosen by the collective consciousness, by the angelics, by the collective consciousness of the earth to be the first place where this original high goddess consciousness can fully reawaken. This is essentially what we're working on, um, in August. Of course, is not just about the divine feminine, ultimately is about divine union. But in order for divine union to occur in the grids, there needs to be this massive balancing because Holy Mother has literally just been eradicated from human consciousness, right? Like, there are songs, so many songs about the goodness of God, about the goodness of our Father, and most people on earth have no recollection or no memory of our Holy Mother at all. So, this is why there's a great activation of divine feminine consciousness and energy. And Ireland is essentially a place where we agreed that this activation will start for a lot of different reasons, from what we just mentioned as being a microcosmic blueprint, the home of these original cosmic trees that were once in the land that have been cut down. So many reasons why Ireland is just the perfect place for this grid work to happen. And what we have the opportunity of doing is essentially collapsing the planetary false king of tyranny grids by allowing the Mother Earth to come back into her absolute highest sovereignty. Okay, so that is essentially what we're going to be doing together. Um, the Ireland goddess is a return to the Holy Mother, and we're basically seeding this remembrance back into the earth so that she can come into union with a true Holy Father God and allowing that consciousness to flower in the grids and to create these impacts in the rest of the grid. And we're, of course, particularly focusing on Israel because that's kind of the front lines of the timeline battle. And we're working on these other grid locations like North Korea and Somalia as well for the purpose that I mentioned earlier in this video. So that is the whole grid update I think I have for you today. The spiritual war is calling for us to come into, the highest devoted frequency. We're really being called into our Jedi ninja avatarhood so that we can come together and pray with power, knowledge, and unity. We're not just going to be throwing crystals around. We're going to be working with specific grid lines with their specific connections. We're going to have Aurora Duff with us, who has mapped so many lines in Ireland and their connections to other places in the world. He's also the person that discovered the dragon lines, and he's going to be sharing about those grid locations at the conference as well. And I'm just, yeah, really excited for us to come together, because I feel like, this is one of the first. I mean, I've never seen another conference where it's so focused and so intentional. I feel like we're really a task force. And when we all take on to our um, personal sovereignty, our personal embodiment, and making that our first and foremost priority, when we do that, we can do such incredible things when we come together. And so much of this is banking on these trainings. And I just want to let you guys know that it's been really intense. Like, I've been getting hella psychic attacks, and I did this psychic attack master class last week. I'm going to be posting that on YouTube because I just feel like it's such a needed workshop for everyone. So I'm going to be posting that in the coming weeks on my YouTube channel. But it's been such incredible a workout. Um, all that is to say is that, when we start to work in these grids, we really can make a huge impact. And when we step into the potential of us making that impact, there are beings that obviously don't want us to be making that impact. And so this is why the training is so important, because when we go together, even if you're not going to be there in person and you're just joining virtually, you're going to experience things, right? Things that try to deter you, or things that try to scare you away, things that try to paint a different picture of what's happening in your dreams. And the only way we're going to really be able to navigate all of those situations is if we're rock solid inside of our own heart, in our personal union with Mother, Father, God. And we'll each need to step into that power inside of ourselves so we can come together as a sovereign collective. And so this is not a conference where you come and, watch new age celebrities or whatever. Like, we're just like, I've put together this incredible team of experts to help us come into awareness and to tune into the earth. Um, really clearing, because at some conferences, like, there's this like weird, like, Hollywood, like, worshiping of famous people, and it's like, we're so much further off than that, right? We're coming together for a job. Each and every single one of us is such a powerful force, and we're really just coming together with focus. This group of people, I have people that are super tapped in, who have been gatekeepers in Ireland for over 10 years. I bring together a Chinese medicine doctor who is tapped into the original dragon squirrels, who's going to be teaching us and tuning us into the earth. And we are going to hear from Rory, who has been spearheading group meditations and ley line research for the past 20 years. It's all going to be intentional information that ultimately serves a purpose so that we can do a job. And that is what we're going to come together for. However, the most exciting thing that I'm excited about is this fairy ball. That's just like, my inner child was like, well, we have to have a ball and everybody have to dress up, as their true self. So after all the work is done on the last day, we're going to have a ball celebration dinner. Charlie from the EarthStar Academy is going to bring his sound system and he's going to DJ. And we're going to have a flower elixir bar, because that's just my dream. Like, I just want there to be like bubbling rose water with lavender and flower petals. And that'll be our little fairy bar, and we can have a beautiful time and celebrate together for the incredible job that we're about to do. And so I hope that this has been a powerful, impactful, educational transmission for you guys. I'm so honored and excited to be, facilitating this divine union of our guardian family. I know that we're going to just do an incredible job. I have seen so many ways in the past, these shields of grid workers that just get split because, we weren't doing enough shadow work and ego healing work within ourselves. But, this is why we are doing all of this training so that when we come together, we're just this impermeable, invincible collective of angels who are all each in our own individual highest power, coming together to serve the earth and Mother, Father, God as equals, as one, as brother, sisterhood. So it's just absolutely so exciting. And I can't wait to see you all there, whether virtually or in person. Again, we have our next training on Sunday. So excited to be sharing with you guys about, you're right, Oracle Eyes. Everything did come out. There's actually a huge grid connection between Ireland and Egypt, and Rory has been mapping this, and it's also connected to the Cygnus constellation, which it's one of the biggest spells and lies that exist in the world. So that is such a massive part of all of this. But anyway, I love you guys so much. Jack says, is the training Sunday via the EarthStar Academy? So it's both a part of the EarthStar Academy and also a part of the Emerald Awakening event. So if you have a ticket, whether to the virtual or the in-person event, then you will have access to the links and the schedule in your event course on Kajabi. So if you can't find that, you can email my team and they will send you a link, info@earthstar.academy. Yeah, for those of you that are feeling the call to join in this mission, the link is in the description. For those of you on the fence about coming in person, the hotel has 30 or 50 rooms on hold for us, but they can only hold them until May 30th. Okay, so on May 30th, they're going to release the rooms from the block. So if you're coming in person, please get your ticket soon so that you can get one of those rooms. Once you have your ticket, you'll receive a PDF on the location, the venue. You can call the venue, let them know that you're a part of the Emerald Awakening, and they will give you a special price on your room. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the training on Sunday. I'm so excited that so many people are ready for just real life Jedi work, even though it takes so much training and depth. I mean, the last training, we were sweating. There was a lot going on. It was like solar flares for a whole day, our cells were exhausted. But, it really changes us. It transforms us on such an immaculate level. So I'm so excited for just what this means, not just for the earth, but for our individual lives. When we commit to this training for the next 3 weeks, our own life will be transformed by that. And that is part of this higher timeline anchoring, right? When you anchor into your own highest timeline, you are part of the first wave of the highest timeline materializing on Earth, and that is so very exciting. That might be one of the most exciting parts. So White Swan says virtual tickets are available if you can't be there in person. It's actually such a great deal because for the virtual tickets, you get access to not only all the presentations and recordings, but the 4 whole days of Guardian training. It's like, 6 times 4, 25, 24 hours of training. It's got practices. It's teaching you about multidimensional grid work. It's teaching you how to activate your light body and your DNA so that you can be a more competent and effective light worker. That's what it's all about. It's like the more that our light body has the ability to accrete higher consciousness, the more powerful we are when we exert that energy or anchor that energy on the earth, which is why the training is so important. It makes all the difference, right? If we're grounded and healed and solid and not fractured, and we are activated in our light body, and we can allow massive volumes of source energy to pour through our body without getting fried, without ascension symptoms, without purging, right? We can actively heal ourselves. And this is all the stuff that we help facilitate in the EarthStar Academy as well. I have a 700 module curriculum that goes through all these things ultimately so that we can be the most competent and effective transmitter of source consciousness that we can be when all the junk is cleared out of our body and our light body. So looking forward to facilitating and hosting and being of service to this incredible mission that we are on together. And Sahara says, did you say we should listen to the Aurora Crystal Chamber to activate and prepare? So you can do that. But in the first grid training day, I have this meditation called the Aurora Pasana, which I'm going to post on this YouTube channel next week. Because again, it's just an incredible practice for all star seeds. I don't want to keep it behind a paywall. You guys might notice I have a lot of resources for free on my YouTube channel because this is just truly my mission. That Aurora Pasana practice for I've been doing it every single day. It is just such a miracle gift. Honestly, it's like a hack. It's like a cheat code because, your body can rehabilitate and heal so quickly with the support of the Aurora forces. And it's just about knowing the energy signature and pulling it and scanning through the body with that practice. So look out for that. I'll share it, sometime next week. But otherwise, I will see you on Sunday for our second grid work training. And I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm just so excited to blow your mind about collective spell breaking because that's what we're going to be getting into. And I love you guys so much. I will see you soon. Bye for now.